Okay, I'm shooting this video for a friend who wanted to know a little bit more about a Tecumseh carburetor system on a lawnmower. This happens to be a 4 horsepower Craftsman lawnmower, but it's a fairly typical carburetor arrangement. We've got our gas tank that's up here. We've got a fuel line that comes along through here into the fuel bowl that you see here. We've got a primer bulb, and then it connects to our intake and off it goes into the engine. So what we're going to do for this video is take the air filter off. We're going to take the gas tank off, and what we're ultimately looking for is we want to make sure we have no water in this bowl here. So we're actually going to take the bowl off, inspect it, and then while we're here we'll also do some other inspections to make sure everything is okay. Okay, first step I'm going to do is actually remove the gas tank. Now unfortunately I stored this for the winter. It is full of gas, and by the way I have taken the spark plug wire off the motor, so we have no chance of starting. But this one actually, if you lift it up right and you notice the plastic clips, it'll actually lift straight up. And what we have here is we have a fuel hose that actually has just a clip on it. So I'm going to get a pair of pliers and we're going to squeeze that out, and then we're hopefully just going to pop the tank off so we don't spill too much gasoline. Move this clamp down. Use my pliers to help get off this little fuel nipple here. We're going to spill some gasoline, but hopefully not too much. And I'm wearing safety glasses. And out we go. Now we'll take the air filter off, which is just a matter of turning, and then it comes off here. This filter's pretty dirty, but we probably should replace it at some point, but that's pretty easy to do. Okay, now the bowl is attached with a simple bolt right on the bottom here. It's 13 millimeter. So what we're going to do is make sure we've got our ratchet set for righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Put it on here and just release it. And it shouldn't be too tight here. Pretty much uses this bolt and a rubber seal around the bowl to keep it sealed against the carburetor. You will spill gas dropping this out. In fact, my hands are covered in gas right now, but it's only what's in the bowl. Of course, any water is also dropping out of this thing right now, which is convenient. Here we go. And this is also our main jet, or should be. It is. So this is an important port. We're going to clean this, but now we should be able to pull down this bowl right here, and that exposes our float. Inside our little cup here, you kind of tilt it, and I don't know if I can tilt it enough without pouring out. You can see a little bit of liquid inside of the gasoline. That's actually water, and that's not good. It'll hinder the operation of your lawnmower over time, so it's nice we open this up and get rid of that. Now that I have the bowl out, you can see it's pretty clean, and so I'm just going to take a rag and just clean out anything in here, make sure everything's really nice and clean. You also want to check to make sure this float is free to move and that it's relatively lightweight, which means it's probably still empty. While we have this out, we've got our main control metering valve, if you will, for the carburetor. It has a hole in it right here, and there's also one on the top right over here. So what we're going to do is I just have a small section of wires. You want to make sure these passages are clear. So you want to be able to pass your wire in through here, just kind of move it out, make sure it's clear. If you've got carburetor cleaner or anything like that, you can certainly feel free to soak it. This one's actually pretty clean already, but you just want to make sure all these passages are clear, and you'll use your string to make sure any gunk or anything is not going to be there. Now, in part of our float mechanism, to get a little bit more in detail here, you can see where the float goes up and down. You see this little, I'll use the wire here to point it out, that little square pin right there. As the float goes up, it actually closes a hole to the fuel tank, so as it drops down, you want to make sure that's free and it operates clearly and loosely. And it's hard to do with the float on, but if you were ever to take a carburetor apart, you'd want to check that. If you have any carburetor cleaner or anything, you can squirt some up there to make sure that we kind of dissolve any gunk that might be up there. You can also put in a little bit to our fuel line right here, because it drains right down to that valve. That's essentially how gas gets into the carburetor. Now we're going to inspect the primer bulb in this area here. A lot of mowers have a hard time with priming. They just won't. Very often it'll be this bulb, and you can pretty much go to a Napa or another store and buy a new one. It's held in with a little snap. It's not even a snap ring, it's more of a friction ring that we have to pop free, and it presses that rubber against the carburetor there. So I'm going to use a small screwdriver and kind of pry that ring out, and that means our bulb will follow right with it. You might destroy this, so you might not want to do it without having one in hand. See if I can kind of spin this ring out. Just going to try to use this small screwdriver and catch an edge and kind of pull it out a little bit. If I knew this bulb was bad, then I could probably just cut it off and then pry out the ring and keep moving on. There we go. We kind of pull it out, and the rubber on this one is really bad, so we might very well replace it. It's supposed to be bright red like you see here, but as you can tell through age and sunlight, it's really gotten kind of dark. And I did kind of break the ring there, and all it does is it presses it against this that you see right here. Let me bring the camera around. See what the primer bulb does is it pretty much just pushes on the gas and kind of squirts an extra amount in there. And so if this thing doesn't seal well, you don't get a very good prime. So we're going to clean that out, and I'm going to spray this all with cleaner to help make sure I don't have any plugged orifices. Okay, we got our primer off. I'm going to take some, this is Napa brand carbon choke cleaner, throttle body cleaner, and I'm just going to nuke everything in here. It's going to spray back, it's going to get all over you. Make sure you're wearing safety equipment. I'm going to spray some through here, through the gas line, and that's going to come right down through the bowl here. And then I'm going to take where our little metering valve actually screws in, and I'm going to squirt it up in there. We're just going to saturate this thing as best we can. Any hole that'll run. This stuff will burn off when we start it the first time, so you can even get extra. That's where a primer bulb gets its air. As you can see, it's coming out the chute right there. So we've got all that all set. All this cleaned off. Now we're ready for reassembly. Before I put my primer bulb back on, for this part I want to clean my cleaner off, at least the rim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of grease, a little bit of oil, not oil, but actually just grease around this lip, because we're making an airtight seal. So we want to, if we can use a little bit of, don't want anything adhesive, but I just want to make sure that we don't leak anything. So I'm just going to put a little bit of oil around that ring right there. And I keep saying oil, grease. We're going to use that to kind of make sure it just makes a seal on that primer bulb. And I'm just going to take and spread this grease around a little bit. And then when I take my primer bulb, I can put it right against there and kind of spin it on some more. Spread that around, just give it a nice little grip. Okay, so I got my primer bulb on there now. Now I'm going to take this little ring that I took off, and I was trying to make sure I didn't damage it because I'm not using a replacement. This one actually works. Then we just kind of clip it in there, and I'm going to use a screwdriver, and I'm going to kind of press it in as round as I can. Right here, kind of clip it in here, and it just grabs along the aluminum of the carburetor and kind of presses the primer bulb against it. So as we press that in like so, makes a good connection. It's going to press our primer bulb right against the carburetor. Just work it around, and our primer bulb is all set and ready to go again. You can see it's moving the cleaner out, so that means it is working. So we've got our primer bulb back on. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put our bowl back on. Now we're going to return our bowl to our carburetor. Now notice it's got a special dented bottom on it, and you want to put the deepest part of the bowl where the deepest part of the float would be. So you kind of want to line it up, and then just kind of, now there's a rubber seal here, so we're not crushing it, we're just kind of pushing it up there. Then we take our metering valve and we put it underneath the hole, and we start hand threading it. Now in theory, the gasoline never gets to the above level of the bowl here because the float will stop it from coming in, so it doesn't need to be super tight. So when I put it on my wrench here, I'm just going to make sure it's just kind of tight, just securely holding the bowl against the carbon. You can just kind of feel it until you get a little bit of resistance. Then you'll be good. You do not need to put this on Superman tight. And that just uses these little clips over here. Snaps on and turns. So that's back on, and make sure it's sealed all the way around. Next is our fuel tank. And then we'll bring our clamp. I'll use my pliers here to get a little bit higher on that. And then I'll use my pliers to grab this little clamp here, which is moving down on me. And we'll then reseal our fuel line to our fuel tank. Like so. And on this model, I just lock it back into the cooling duct here. And this is all set. Sorry for any wind noise that might be in the video here. This mower traditionally likes approximately 10 pumps. Don't be shy. Especially since we've just emptied the bowl. It might not start right off the bat. That's more than 10, but can't really overprime it. You could, but we're not gonna. Squeeze the trigger. This mower has actually never started this year, so it'll be pretty cool if it does.